That looked pretty cool, Rajat. That you were looking quite relaxed in the foot soak, but you were looking pretty stressed prior to that.
Yeah, that's right.
Where did you get that bucket? I mean, that looked like a military grade vessel.
It's got a handle, and it's actually perfect for foot soaking.
Wow. You know, I probably found the foot soak, somebody had told me about it about 20 years ago.
Really?
And I wish I took it seriously.
Yeah.
Because I didn't. Of course, you know, like so many different things in life, when I found that, I should have been a little more diligent. Now, 20 years later, I realized that the foot soak is so relaxing.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
It's really one of the most fundamental tools I use personally day to day, just as like a daily routine, just like showering.
You're a smarter guy than I am, and I have to say, when I found the foot soak, that was in college, and I may have tried it once or twice, and I found one of these plastic buckets. You know, this is probably more accessible than your military grade version of the same. And so, what do you use? Do you use cold water or do you use warm water? What suits you?
Yeah, so it depends on the day. So like say I'm having a really busy day, I've been working quite hard, such as early in the video you saw, I'd use a cold foot soak just because it's so much more relaxing and easier to get rid of stuff.
Well, in this heat of Sydney, I can imagine that just a cold water foot soak is probably the most prescriptive approach.
For most people, yes.
For most people.
Yeah.
But I guess I have to say that there are certain times when I'm just feeling like I'm in a fuzz. I'm just feeling very lethargic, not getting that drive, the energy to get up and get going.
Yep.
And those times, that warm water foot soak does seem to help.
For sure. It's definitely great either time. You know, you can change the temperature up depending on what you're feeling.
Yeah, it's so remarkable that we live in our thoughts, right? That I think somebody had once mentioned cogito ergo sum or something along those lines, and we are what we think, or we are what we think about.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I'm not getting my Latin right, but we get so wrapped up in our thoughts that it's really difficult to separate ourselves from the thoughts.
Yeah.
And that is fundamental to a lot of the stress that we experience, right? We need gratification of what we want in about 0.03 seconds or less.
That's right.
I'll give you an example. Today, I had gone to the beach and it was just so insanely crowded. I had to drop off the family. I had to find a parking spot. And it's like vultures. You find one parking spot and you've got 15 people lining up and honking and trying to get that. And
the attention is very to this, to that very quickly.
It's. I thought that technology would make a difference. Someone had probably mentioned that technology was going to be the solution to all our problems, and we have stressful utopian lives.
Yeah.
And here we are. We're probably more stressed than we've ever been as a civilization.
Completely sitting down at a desk all day, just our eyes glued to our screens. On our break, we're on our phone, and you know what? It can't be that great for you.
No. I mean, I'm now married, 2 kids later, balancing all those different elements in life. It's a challenge sometimes. And speaking of elements, what about the salt? Where does the salt come from? I mean, do we need to use salt, or can we use something else? Or
yeah. So the whole idea about the foot soak is to simulate a experience like the ocean would have. So as in, you'd go to the beach.
I get that.
And
I love
put
that.
your feet in the beach, and how relaxed do you normally feel after that? And because the ocean has this capacity to clear out any stress we have, so we simulate that with a lot of salt, like as salty water would be. And just basically that's the reason.
Wow. I mean, now that you mention it, it strikes me that, you know, this was probably during my college days, and I had attended a Sahaja Yoga meditation seminar. And this was at a med school. And obviously, these med school students are really smart. Somebody raises the question that this seems like, I think the process they mentioned was osmosis.
Right.
There is this transfer of ions between two liquids or fluids at different ion densities. And that's what is being simulated as we sit down in salty water, because the human body is also, to some extent, salty water.
Right.
So the salt water really does make sense.
Okay.
And it certainly helps you relax. I mean, I know I've fallen asleep so many times trying to do the foot soak.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah. It definitely, as you were saying earlier, it really brings you back to your true self in a way. After a long day of whatever work you are involved with, you definitely get back to your true self after getting rid of the stress throughout the day. And yeah,
it's like a power rinse. We should just call it the power rinse.
The power rinse, is it really?
The power rinse for the inner self.
Exactly.
Got a nice ring to it.
Yeah.
So how did you find Sahaja Yoga?
So I actually found it about 1.5 years ago at university. There was a stall at orientation weeks.
Oh, okay.
And I just found out through that, and I couldn't question it. I couldn't find a flaw with the teachings, and for me personally, it resonated. And from then on, it just had such a remarkable impact on every aspect of my life that I just have to continue.
Yeah, it sounds very similar. I mean, I'm going back about 20 years from when I found Sahaja Yoga.
Yeah.
And there was a friend of mine. He was one of those people, he was kind of perpetually in a state of agitation.
Right.
He was agitated, and he would really help get you agitated as well. But he was a really good friend of mine. And I noticed we both did really badly in our first year. We were partying a lot and not really paying attention to our coursework, and we both flunked a few papers. He flunked a few more than I did. And he didn't come back for the second semester. And he comes back and he tells me that, hey, I've started this form of meditation.
Oh, he's the one that brought it to you.
Yeah, so he told me that, I'm meditating, and I found that so incredibly zany that this guy, he's meditating. what even is that? And so I did start noticing that his behavior had changed. He just seemed a little more composed, a little more at ease with himself.
Yeah.
And that struck me because, at that point in life, I think I was a sophomore in college. And we were kind of getting into that phase where we would start thinking about interviews for a full-time job and go through the whole adult process. And I felt that I could do much more, and I wasn't really reaching my full potential.
Oh, okay.
And at that time, this friend of mine, he told me that you should try this form of meditation, Sahaja Yoga. And Shri Mataji Devi, we see in the photograph, she's the founder of Sahaja Yoga. She passed away in 2011. But when I found Sahaja Yoga, she was touring all over the world.
Right.
And she happened to be the town where I went to college. And I was just fascinated with what she had to share. She delivered some speeches at colleges. And I remember that she was really stressing the importance of us understanding our own potential. That we have this incredible reservoir of potential.
Right, yeah.
Every man, woman, or child. We talk about being a universal band of brothers and being one world, but there's so many differences that separate us, right? We're so very tribal in so many different ways. But what she said was that there is this potential, the Kundalini, this inner energy that really helps us feel one with ourselves, as you mentioned, our inner selves, and really helps us realize the spiritual potential that we all have.
Right.
And just as you experienced, I felt that was the unlock. It was a door opening to a world of new potential that I was looking for.
Yeah.
And I have to admit that I wasn't very diligent with the foot soak when I first found Sahaja Yoga, and I should have been. I really should have been. But despite that, I started noticing positive changes. They came in different shapes and sizes.
Naturally.
Kind of like that Forrest Gump story, life's like a box of chocolates.
Right.
I found these little candies and chocolates along the way that were really endearing, enticing, and interesting.
Yeah, do you mind naming some? What did you find?
Well, for starters, I found that I was doing a lot better at college.
Yeah, I can attest to that too.
I went to an engineering program, and we would like to say that if you can get through mechanical engineering, the mechanical engineering program, you can probably get through most other endeavors. And it was seeming like that, because my first year was a nightmare.
Yeah.
But from the time I started meditating, it got a lot better.
Right, awesome.
And then I think on a broader scale, I started attending some of the speeches and events that she arranged, and I started talking to other practitioners of the meditation. And it was a gradual unraveling of that process. And most importantly, I really felt that drive to discover more about myself and how much more I could do personally at different levels, how much more creative I could be, or if I could be part of something bigger than myself. And that magic started to make sense through meditation. But it all does need, the glue of it all is meditation.
Right.
And we should probably listen to a few words about how Shri Mataji described the foot soak, because I found that the foot soak is such an enabler for this magical process.
Yeah, definitely.
Now you put both the hands towards the photograph and feet in the water with a little salt. You can have little hot water, cold water, or warm water according to the need. Suppose you are suffering from cold, better to take a warm water. Put a little salt in. Put your hands towards the photograph. You'll be amazed that the whole trouble will go away into the water.
So how do you feel physically after you foot soak? Do you notice any physical changes? Or, because I'll be honest, I've noticed sometimes that I'll physically feel that there is this osmosis happening, and there is this exchange with the water. I mean, it sounds really spooky, but I felt it and I thought I'd share it with you. But have you felt something similar?
Definitely. It's a bit more subtle than what you'd normally experience in physical sensations, but say, like when we have a very busy day, it's really easy to get captured in it and to forget that we're actually stressed out. And once you actually get into the foot soak, you can see such a clear transition into your body getting less heavy and more light. And particularly that really shows. And also, say you feel very hot inside, and just the stress can bring some heat inside your body. That clears out through the foot soak. I'd say that's the real tangible effect I can see from the foot soak.
Absolutely. And I have to admit that you and I have had it fairly easy in life in some ways. We could say that we're children of privilege in some form or fashion. And there are so many different forms of stress. I mean, I think about the firefighters who have been doing such an incredible job all over Australia. Just imagine these guys men and women are out there facing 200, 300 degrees temperature and working through days and night. I mean, that's real stress.
It really is.
And that is physical and tangible in so many different ways, and emotional as well. And if we have this capability, if they have this process to be able to resolve that stress, especially on a long-term basis, if we can use it on a regular basis to be able to manage the stress, I think the world would be so much of a better place. And because stress is one of those enemies that kind of lurks under the surface, and we kind of keep it in the closet as long as we can, and then it turns into this snarling beast that gets in the way of our productivity, or in the way of our relationships. I think research has shown that there's probably more than 50% of people have had stressful situations where they're angry with loved ones. But what they don't realize is that it's the stress that is at work. If we allow the stress to build over a period of time, that it can become much more than just a few angry words or someone tossing his or her iPhone over the balcony.
You're completely right. I think it's a really common misconception that we might think there's a stressful life and a stress-free life, and there's no in between. But I think that's where that managing stress idea comes, that instead of accumulating this thing day in, day out, we can manage it, we can reduce it, and bring that stress-free life day by day. We get closer to that.
Absolutely. So let's take this opportunity. We can spend a few minutes meditating. It's been a great Sunday, and I find no better reason to meditate than to draw conclusion to a beautiful Sunday.
Fair enough.
What we can do is we can sit comfortably, and having the hands open is a good idea, because what I find is that the hands really tell a story of how we are doing. So it's kind of a progress report of where things stand, especially when we start to meditate. So if we may be feeling that the hands are warm, they may be tingling, they may be cool. And in the language of Sahaja Yoga meditation, cool is good.
Right, that's true.
Somebody had probably said cool check, that we do a cool check, and are we cool? And if we're cool, then things are good. But very often we do find that things are not so cool, and we need to evaluate where things stand. So right now, let's take a sense, let's get a rain check of where things stand on our hands. We can close our eyes and just slow things down. Let's just drink in the moment, be present, enjoy the present, and pay attention to ourselves. For a change, instead of seeing or being seen, let's just pay attention to ourselves. How are we breathing? Breathing in, breathing out. Pay attention to the beating of the heart. Let's take the right hand to the heart. And just feel the beating of this heart. And recognize that the heart is more than just a mass of tissue, an organ, a pump that becomes this distribution engine for our remarkably complex human body. We recognize that the heart is the seat of our soul, the Atma, the spirit. The seat of the eternal within us. The seat of the spiritual self. A reflection of the consciousness that is universal, that pervades through every living cell, through the waters of the Pacific, the Atlantic, and swirls as cosmic dust. We feel the grandeur of that universal consciousness in our spirit that resides within this heart, lies asleep until we want to know, and I want to know, the true spiritual reality that helps me go beyond this mind, the continuous stream of thoughts, emotions. some bad, some good, some ugly, that allows us to rise beyond this body, this mind, our age, gender, nationality, our demographics. And feel one with that truly universal aspect of our being. I wish to experience my own spiritual self, knowing that I am not truly bound by this body, this mind, and all these thoughts that cause me stress and anxiety, sadness, and even depression. I wish to experience the joy of my Atma. We can take the right hand to the forehead and just pressing the temples as if we were nursing a headache. Let's take this opportunity to forgive everyone who may have hurt us, and also forgive ourselves. We are sometimes so harsh on ourselves. I forgive myself and I forgive all. Forgiveness is that powerful weapon that we can wield to rise beyond all the noise in the head. It's not important to remember all those who may have caused us anguish or hurt, but it is important in meditation to be true to the heart and truly forgive and let go of all those memories, all the anger that we may be capturing inside us. It's time to let go, free ourselves of all these negative emotions. And we can take the right hand to the crown of the head and just press down on the crown of the head and massage the skin of the scalp with firm, gentle, clockwise motion. Describe 7 circles that signify the spiral motion of this energy through our being. And we affirm to ourselves our gratitude to Shri Mataji for making this knowledge available to all of us. And it is also time for us to express that desire to experience self-realization. Our first experience with reality. As this inner spiritual energy, the Kundalini, courses through our nervous system, and emerges from the crown of the head. We feel this silence growing within us, a deep sense of relaxation, and a cool flow of energy that defies gravity and flows upwards, uniting with the universal unconscious and enabling us to feel a deep, enriching silence. A silence that allows us to heal and grow and go beyond some of our most challenging thoughts and stresses and fears, and help us realize that we are resilient beyond what our thoughts would have us believe. We can listen to an excerpt of a speech where Shri Mataji describes the mechanics of stress and how Sahaja Yoga can help us all.
But the tradition was that one person would give realization to only one person. If I have done anything you think worth mentioning, it is that I tried to find out a way of giving collective realization, collective happening. That's what was my humble contribution, and by which I find thousands of people have got their realization. Now, what is the realization? It is that if you see at the base of the spinal cord is a triangular bone called as sacrum. It is called sacrum because it's a sacred bone, and the Greeks knew about it, that it's a sacred bone. And according to our Shastras and also many other prophecies, there resides a power within us, our own power, your own power, called as Kundalini. It's called Kundalini because it is in 3.5 coils. Coils are called Kundal, that's why it is the Kundalini. Now, this power is your own. It's in every human being. And if it is awakened, it passes through 6 centers, piercing through the top of the head, which we call as the Brahmarandre in the Sanskrit language and the fontanelle area in the English language. It passes through that soft bone which was there in the childhood, and you just start feeling the cool breeze coming out of your head and the cool breeze coming onto your fingertips. It happens. It's an experience, and for which you cannot pay. You cannot. I may go on telling you lots of stories, this, that won't work. It has to happen. The Kundalini has to rise and has to pierce through fontanelle area. Otherwise, it's no use. It's just words, some sermon or something like that. So, this happening is very easy in this Kali Yuga. It's really remarkable because maybe because of Kali Yuga, people are fed up of the things going on and all kinds of things working out. Now, what does it do? It passes through 6 centers. 6 centers, these are meant for our physical, mental, and emotional being, and also for our spiritual being. So when it passes through these 6 centers, it nourishes those centers. It integrates all these centers. And ultimately it passes through this and enters into the all-pervading power of divine love. It's called as Paramachaitanya. You may call it as all-pervading power of divine love, or anything, but names make no difference. There is a very subtle power around us which looks after us, which guides us, which helps us, which is the torsion area. Now, by doing that, what happens? That you become knowledgeable of the absolute truth. Absolute. Whatever you know is absolute, is nothing to doubt, nothing can be challenged. For example, it starts flowing through your fingertips. Starts flowing through your fingertips, and you can feel it on your fingertips, your centers. Now these are 5, 6 and 7 centers, 5, 6 and 7 centers. I'm not going to tell you all the details now, but when you start feeling these whole sensation, Adi Shankaracharya has called it as spand, then you feel the truth, the real truth. For example, supposing in your office you get somebody who is a cheat, very well dressed, speaks English very well, very well behaved. How will you make him out? You just have to put your hands under your table and see for yourself. Immediately you'll get some sort of a burning sensation, or you might feel some sort of a, they call needle and pins, like that. That kind of a feeling you might get. Then you will also know what centers he is catching on your fingertips. This is the absolute knowledge about everything. It's not question of only knowing who is a bad or a good person, but also of diseases. Supposing you have some disease, you will feel it on your fingertips. On your fingertips you will feel it. You will know this is your disease, and if you know how to cure them, you can cure others also. Because you become one with the whole. It's a very collective personality you develop. Who is the other after all? We are all one. But only trouble is we are separated because of this ignorance. Once this works out, so many things drop out from us. This is the right side I am telling you about, but also the conditionings are very much working out in us. In our reaction, there are two things that work out. One is the right side, another the left side, and the left side is all the conditioning as you see them. These conditionings come to us through our childhood, through our family, through our country, through our reading, this, that, all kinds of things they come up. But also, family upbringing is very important. Because according to our Shastras, there are 6 enemies, we have got 6. Now these 6 enemies are what? So Kama, Krodha, Mada, Matsara, Lobha, Moha. Kama is what you can call sexual urge. Krodha is anger. Krishna has denounced anger. But all right-sided people are hot-tempered. They don't want to be, but they are. And when they lose their temper, then they feel bad also. Not that they want to lose it, but they just lose it. Now, this one drops out. The temper goes out completely because you develop that witness state, Sakshi Swarupada. With that witness state, you just see everything. You don't lose temper. You just see it. That is one thing drops out very well. Mother is false pride. That we have. I know IAS officers and their wives. They have that false pride. Not everyone, but some of them do they have. I have very funny experiences of that.
Okay, so that was a pretty insightful talk by Shri Mataji and a very nice meditation just then we had. And if anyone needs more information about this stream, we can visit www.freemeditation.com.au, and there's quite a lot of information about Sahaja
What's
Yoga.
that website again? freemeditation.com. Okay.
Yeah, .com.au. And there's a lot of extra information that's perfect for someone just starting out in Sahaja Yoga, trying this meditation.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.